Mayor Faulconer, good to see you again.
It's great to be back.
Now, San Diego's 5-year financial outlook shows a projected surplus of close to $3 million for the next fiscal year and more than $58 million in surplus projected for the general fund. Where does this expected surplus money come from?
Well, it's a combination of things. Obviously, it's good news. We're out of the recession that we've had to deal with, not only in San Diego, but cities across the country. It's growing revenue, sales tax, property tax, TOT tax. That's why a healthy economy is so important to healthy neighborhoods. And it's my job and my commitment that said 50% of all those new revenues, 50% as a minimum, we're going to reinvest them right back into neighborhood services, street repair, all of the other things that the city was not doing a very good job of when it comes to infrastructure.
And that was my next question, the priority for spending this money. So infrastructure. Infrastructure.
When we look at making sure that we're spending, those monies wisely, which I'm spending a lot of time on, to make sure that it goes right back into neighborhoods where that money should be spent, where San Diegans, expect and deserve that it's spent. A lot of work on street repair, a lot of work on, city facilities and others. We're long overdue for that type of commitment, but it's working.
And I know another area that we've been talking about is money, as far as spending city money, is the city-funded report that recently found that San Diego police officers are among the least paid in the state. No surprise here. However, Prop B actually restricts how you give raises out, basically, correct?
Yeah,
so how are you going to handle the retention problem with them?
We're going to pay our officers more, and that's, I can't put it any more simply. And in fact, what I've said is, making sure that we're holding true to Proposition B, which had a 5-year pensionable pay freeze, which will save our city $1 billion. And working very closely with our Police Officers Association, which we're at the negotiating table now. We have to make sure that we're competitive, that we're not only attracting the best and brightest men and women to join our police department, but once they're here, that we keep them here. And that's my commitment, to make sure that we are competitive. We provide incentives. We're looking at a variety of different things when it comes to compensation.
Would that money come from the budget then? Because it can't come from the fund?
It'll come from the budget, absolutely, as we're looking to making sure that we keep the best and the brightest right here in San Diego where they belong.
All right, and sorry to jump back on you, but I wanted to say that as far as the deferred maintenance on city streets and things like that, I wanted to get back to that. Estimated cost of $2 billion, but the city budget analyst suggested raising sales tax in order to help pay for that. Is that something you might also consider?
What I'm working on right now is to make sure that the money that San Diegans are already sending to City Hall is being spent wisely. In fact, just this morning I had a meeting with some of the folks in our contracting department, because I'm not convinced that we're doing a very good job on oversight and making sure we're being efficient. Part of my commitment is, I said, 50% of all new revenues that comes to the city goes for neighborhood infrastructure. Looks like we'll be back into the bond market here shortly on infrastructure bonds, which I support and the council supported, $120 million a year for the next 5 years. That's a big part of it. But one of the things that I've said very clearly, that's why we're doing some of these assessments, is we have to know the scope and scale of the project. And San Diegans have to know that the money that's being spent on those is actually being spent wisely. That's why I'm spending a whole lot of time on structural reforms inside City Hall.
So before you would actually support or deny sales tax increase?
Yeah, and we have a lot of work to do to make sure that we're paving those streets the right way. We're doing it in a quality manner, and it's not taking too long to get it done.
Now, during the mayoral campaign, you pledged to restore trust and integrity in City Hall by having a transparent government. There was supposed to be an independent audit of the city's public records and permit process. Where does that audit process stand now, and where does it stand as far as transparency and your program for that?
Transparency is very important. In fact, we're spending a whole lot of time on open data, making sure we're putting more and more of the city's information online, so San Diegans can access it, so you don't have to try to hunt to different places to try to find it. Hired a new technology officer just to make sure that we're doing that. And the auditor comes out with his work plan every year. That is one of the items that I hope that we do have that audit, because I think it is important. All of these things work together, just like we were talking about, to make sure that the data is out there. People are confident that the city is doing the right thing, and all of those numbers are up front for the public to see.
So the new data officer, we could expect to hear from him or the audit soon?
Yeah, and it's great on the open data, because there's so much information that is out there, but it needs to be available for the public to access in formats that they can access. San Diego's behind the curve when it comes to that. I want to make sure that we are actually a nationwide leader on open data, and we will be.
All right, Mayor Kevin Faulconer, thank you so
Hey,
much.
great to see you. Thank you.